Experts once believed this 1910 studio photograph was calm and ordinary, until they noticed the small object the young girl held in her hand. Dr. Maya Johnson's fingers shook a bit as she examined the old picture in the gentle afternoon sunlight pouring through her office window at Emory University in Atlanta. She had bought it for $300 at an estate sale in Decatur on the weekend. From the first moment she spotted it among dusty boxes filled with lost memories, the image pulled her in. The black and white photograph captured a black family of 3 in a formal studio pose from around 1910. The father stood tall and proud in a dark suit, resting one hand on the back of an elegant chair. The mother sat with perfect posture, dressed in a high-neck white blouse trimmed with delicate lace. Standing between them was a girl about 8 years old, wearing a spotless white dress and ribbons in her neatly arranged hair. During her 15 years studying African American history in the post-Reconstruction South, Maya had looked at hundreds of photographs from that period. Most were stiff and formal, with black families showing strong pride to push back against cruel stereotypes. At first, this one appeared no different, but Maya felt uneasy. The family's faces carried an unusual depth, not exactly smiling, not fully serious, but something more powerful. The girl's eyes stared straight into the camera, almost reaching across time, as if she had an urgent message to share. Maya placed the photo on her desk and brought out her digital magnifying tools, something she used often for old documents and pictures. She carefully checked every detail, the painted garden backdrop, the fine quality of their clothes, the faint photographer's signature in the corner. Then she looked closely at the girl's hands folded neatly in front of her dress. Maya stopped breathing for a second. Hidden partly by the pose and the grainy texture of the old photo was something she had missed before. In the girl's right hand was a small metal item, no longer than 2 inches. Maya zoomed in further, her pulse quickening. It was curved metal, snapped at one end, with a hinge still clear. Her training told her immediately what it was, though her heart fought the idea. It was a child-sized shackle, broken right through the middle. The quiet, dignified portrait changed completely in that moment. This was not simply a picture of pride and respect. It was a brave, hidden statement that had waited more than a century to be seen. For the next 3 days, Maya hardly slept. The photograph took over her thoughts. She cancelled classes and let emails pile up while she turned her office into a research workspace. Walls filled with printed pages, notes and timelines as she worked to understand the story behind the image. The photographer's mark read Sterling and Associates, Memphis, Tennessee, 1910. Maya searched old digital records and learned the studio operated on Beale Street from 1908 to 1915, serving both white and black customers, something rare for the time. This hinted the photographer might have been more open than most. She sent high-quality scans to experts around the country in early 20th century photography, historical objects, and African American history. Within 2 days, her suspicions were confirmed. Dr. Robert Chen from Howard University, an expert on old restraint devices, replied with a serious email. Maya, this matches restraints used on children in the Convict leasing system and apprenticeship programs common in the South after Reconstruction. They appeared often in farm and household labor, where children were legally bound to employers. The break looks forced, not unlocked. Where did you get this image? Maya had researched convict leasing deeply, the cruel system where southern states rented out mostly black prisoners, frequently arrested on false charges, to private companies for hard labor. The child apprenticeship system, however, stayed more hidden and less recorded. She turned to her worn copy of Slavery by Another Name by Douglas Blackman and read the sections on child labor. After slavery ended, Southern laws allowed courts to bind black children to white employers if parents were judged unable to provide for them. Courts made these decisions unfairly and cruelly. Children as young as 5 were forced to work without pay until they grew up. Maya studied the photo again with new understanding. The family's clothing looked too fine for people coming straight out of poverty. The father's suit had expert tailoring, the mother's blouse showed costly lace, and the girl's dress was perfect. They had reached some level of success or saved carefully for this portrait. Why take the risk of including such a shocking object? In 1910 Memphis, showing proof of forced labor could lead to serious danger. violence, false charges, or even re-enslavement through the courts. Black families lived with constant fear. To understand the photo, Maya needed to know Memphis in 1910. She spent the next week deep in historical records, building a picture of the city and the risks the family faced. Memphis was full of contrasts. Beale Street buzzed with black culture, businesses, and music, where people built strong communities. But this success happened inside a larger system built to control and exploit. Tennessee enforced Jim Crow laws harshly. Black families' progress was always under threat. Vagrancy laws let police arrest black men without jobs and lease them out. Debt trapped families in forced work through unfair contracts. Apprenticeship quietly removed children from families under the excuse of training or education. Maya found a 1909 report by a northern journalist who looked into labor conditions near Memphis. He described farms where black children worked like adults, in conditions almost the same as slavery. County judges apprenticed them, often without parents knowing or agreeing, sometimes taking them for small reasons or just poverty. One part chilled her. Children wore metal cuffs at night to stop escapes. During the day, the cuffs came off for work but stayed close as a threat. Many children had lasting scars on wrists and ankles. She checked Shelby County court records, Memphis's county. From 1900 to 1915, more than 300 black children were legally apprenticed. The records used cold words that hid real pain. Most listed only first names and ages, so following their lives or reunions was very hard. Maya searched for families who might have escaped the system near 1910 and could pay for a formal photo. In Tennessee State Archives, she saw a 1910 Beale Street ad for Sterling and Associates, portraits of distinction for families of character. Discretion assured. Why mention discretion? A librarian at Memphis Public Library explained that Sterling was known and trusted in the black community. They took photos others refused, after funerals, for businesses later destroyed, or any truth people wanted kept secret. After 2 weeks, Maya found a key clue. Searching city directories, church records, and census data for black families near Beale Street with an 8-year-old daughter in 1910, she came across Second Congregational Church records. A 1910 membership note said, "Family rejoined July 1910 after return from Fayette County." It named Samuel Price, 34. Laborer, Clara Price, 29. Laundress, Ruth Price, 8. The mention of Fayette County stood out. About 50 miles east of Memphis, the county was mostly farming and known for harsh treatment of black people after Reconstruction in 1905 county court files. Maya found the record she feared. Ruth Price, female child of color, age 3, apprenticed to William Dawson, farmer, to learn domestic work and Christian teaching until age 18. Parents Samuel and Clara judged unable to support her. Ruth was just 3 when taken. Dawson owned 200 acres and had other apprenticed workers. A polite way to describe forced labor. No complaints were recorded against him, but that meant almost nothing in a system that ignored black children's suffering. Still, Ruth returned home. Weeks after coming back to Memphis in July 1910, the family visited Sterling's studio for a portrait that would stand as lasting proof of her ordeal. Maya wanted to learn how they got Ruth back and why they risked showing the shackles so openly. She contacted church descendants, Tennessee labor historians, and genealogists. A big breakthrough came from Dr. Patricia Lawson, a retired Memphis professor of black women's activism in the Jim Crow years. She wrote, "I recall stories of black women in Memphis who quietly brought children home from illegal apprenticeships. No official group, but they succeeded. Look at Ida B. Wells's papers." Maya knew Ida B. Wells Barnett, the brave journalist who exposed lynching and fought injustice. Wells left Memphis in 1892 after threats but kept ties. In University of Chicago archives, Maya found a 1910 letter from Wells mentioning Memphis women freeing children from bondage called Apprenticeship. The letter stayed vague for safety. Back to church records, Maya checked women's groups. In 1909 minutes of Second Congregational's Women's Mission Society, she saw Committee to Visit Afflicted Families. Clara Price to receive help for her daughter's unlawful detention. Things connected. Clara asked church women for help. They knew how to work around dangerous Jim Crow rules. In March 1910, Samuel filed a Shelby County court petition to get Ruth back, saying he had steady work at the Memphis Street Railway and Clara ran a successful home laundry. A white lawyer, Henry Thompson, added an affidavit supporting their character and finances. Very unusual. Thompson sometimes defended black people, making him unpopular among whites. The court approved in May 1910, but Maya knew the legal win was only half. Someone had to bring Ruth home from the farm, and Dawson likely did not let go easily. A short June 1910 Fayette County newspaper item read, "Disturbance at Dawson Farm. Sheriff called after Memphis group claimed Negro child apprentice. Settled per court order. No charges." The brief words hid a frightening moment. Maya pictured Clara, perhaps with churchwomen and lawyer Thompson, arriving with the court paper to demand Ruth. The white lawyer's presence probably stopped violence. To understand the broken shackles' meaning, Maya asked Dr. Angela Foster, an expert in African-American visual culture and resistance. Angela came to Atlanta with advanced imaging tools. "This is remarkable," she said, studying the enlarged image. Ruth holds the shackle deliberately, fingers placed to show it clearly even if small. This was no accident. It was planned testimony. They looked at other details. The father's grip on the chair was tight. The mother's face showed quiet defiance in her jaw and eyes. They knew the danger but created the photo anyway, a record for the future, perhaps for Ruth later or for history. It was resistance, making sure her suffering would not vanish. Angela noted the clean break, not rust or wear. Cut on purpose, likely with a hacksaw. It took effort. "I believe they kept this piece as proof and symbol." Maya felt tears rise. The bravery of Samuel and Clara to make this portrait, knowing discovery could bring harm, was hard to imagine. In 1910 Memphis, showing resistance to white power could mean arrest, attack, or death. Yet they dressed in their best, went to a trusted studio, and posed for an image that captured both pride and fight. The broken shackle proved survival and victory. Maya and Angela talked for hours about its importance. Such images were extremely rare. Most records of child apprenticeship came from white sources that downplayed cruelty. A family's own evidence of escape was almost unknown. Angela urged, "Find what happened to Ruth later. Did she live fully?" The story continues. Tracing Ruth after 1910 was difficult but possible. Census records showed the family in Memphis in 1920. Samuel worked as a railway porter. Clara kept her laundry. And Ruth, 18, taught at a school for black children. Becoming a teacher after forced labor showed huge effort and family support. Maya thought Ruth's experience drove her to give other children the education she lost. Memphis Board of Education files confirmed Ruth taught at Les Moines Elementary, started by the American Missionary Association. Her 1918 application said she finished normal school and had child experience. A recommendation came from Henry Thompson, the same lawyer, praising her character and persistence despite early hardships. In 1930, Clara, now a widow, lived with Ruth, who married Thomas Williams, a postal worker. Samuel died in 1927. Maya visited his simple grave at Elmwood Cemetery, thinking of the father who fought for his daughter. He lived 17 years after the photo, seeing Ruth grow up, marry, and thrive, a quiet win. Ruth taught 32 years, retiring in 1950. Newspapers called her dedicated. In a 1945 article, she said, "Education is freedom. Every child deserves to learn and grow without interference or exploitation." Maya's search changed when she shared findings on a Memphis genealogy forum. 3 days later, Linda Harris from Nashville emailed, "I think Ruth Price Williams was my great-grandmother. My grandmother Dorothy was her daughter. I have Ruth's belongings, photos, papers. Happy to meet if it's the same Ruth." Maya drove to Nashville. Linda, in her 60 seconds with warm eyes and Ruth's strong look, welcomed her. "I never met my great-grandmother. She died in 1969 before I was born. But my grandmother Dorothy shared stories of her strength and love for education." Linda showed a worn box, report cards, a family Bible, letters, photos, one of older Ruth in the 1960s in front of her class, looking proud. Ruth rarely spoke of childhood, Linda said. She got quiet when asked. But once as a teen, Dorothy heard her say, "I was taken young from my parents and worked on a farm where children faced unkind treatment. My mother never gave up searching. When I returned, I promised to help other children have better lives." Maya felt moved. Linda did not know the photo or Shackle. This family story matched Maya's findings. Deep in the box, wrapped in tissue, was the matching half of the broken Shackle. Linda's family kept it but thought it an old tool from childhood. Maya explained, showing the photo zoomed on Ruth's hand. Tears came as Linda understood. She kept it her whole life, over 60 years. Why? As a reminder, Maya said, of survival, of her parents' fight, maybe as proof if anyone doubted her. With Linda's agreement, Maya planned an exhibit at Emory's African American History Center, the 1910 photo, historical context, documents, and Ruth's artifacts, including both Shackle pieces, reunited after a century. It took 6 months with curators and designers. Linda helped with stories and photos. They contacted other church descendants. Many shared tales of the women's network freeing children, some successfully, others heartbreakingly not. Maya linked with historians studying similar systems across the South. Child apprenticeship existed widely but stayed understudied in Jim Crow history. Scholars valued Maya's work. The exhibit opened in September to over 200 people, including Linda and descendants of affected Memphis families. News spread locally, then nationally. Maya spoke. Historical photos often show only surfaces, clothes, poses, expressions. This one asks us to look deeper, see the oaken Shackle in Ruth's hand, and grasp its meaning. It shows resistance came in many forms. Families fought injustice however they could. Truth survives even when power tries to hide it. Linda added, "My great-grandmother Ruth lived to 73. She taught hundreds, loved her family, built a life of dignity. The system stole her childhood, but not her future. She wanted us to remember. That's why she kept the Shackle, why her parents risked the photo. They believed one day someone would understand." 6 months later, Maya published in the Journal of Southern History, adding to studies of post-Reconstruction child exploitation. It inspired new projects at universities. Linda created a scholarship in Ruth's name at Lemoyne-Owen College for education students facing hardships. At the first event, she showed the 1910 photo with Ruth's words, "Education is freedom." Maya found records of 13 more children apprenticed in Fayette County, 1,900 to 1,915, and later returned with Memphis women's help. Each was an act of courage now finally told. She began a book to share these erased stories. The photo now stands permanently at the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, sparking talks on hidden histories and visual resistance. School groups study it, learning how people spoke truth to power in danger. Nearly a year after buying the photo, Maya sat in her cleared office on a warm spring day. Requests for talks, collaborations, and family stories poured in. She took out the preserved original and looked again. Ruth's eyes still reached across time, but now Maya knew the message, not just one child's pain and survival, but a bigger truth of strength, family love, and the lengths people go to guard their children and dignity. Samuel and Clara ensured Ruth's story lived on in the most lasting way they had, a formal photograph stronger than memory or oral tales. The broken Shackle was their proof, their refusal to let wrongs stay hidden. As Maya switched off the lights, she thought of countless other photos in attics, sales, and boxes, possibly holding similar secrets. History hides in small details, carried objects, and coded messages for future people ready to see. Ruth survived, taught, loved, and left a lasting legacy. Over a century later, her story is finally heard,